What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we're going to be doing our power rankings, kind of. We're calling them power rankings, I guess. Been mulling over this for a bit, but power ranking thing is cool in that you get a perspective as to what I think people are going to do and numbers and, where they're going to place and all that. But the only thing is it just gets to a certain point where the numbers don't matter, and it's kind of like tiers anyway. So what I did was, I did do a power ranking sheet. I did one for preseason, I did one for the East and for the West. Like, all separate. I did one whole with all the 20, and then all the other teams scattered, all the other teams in their divisions, where I think they're going to fall into place there. Now, these aren't written in stone. These aren't by any means a definitive, this is what is going to happen in my mind. I have them broken into groups. Okay, so before we get started, and we'll start talking about them in a minute. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. Thanks, guys. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for all the support you guys have given me. And if you're new, thanks a lot for stopping by. I do Overwatch League content a couple times a week. We're in the season now. We are 5 days away. So I'm going to have power rankings today. Then we're going to start diving into week 1, melee, all that kind of stuff. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button, hit the alerts, hit a subscribe. That would be great. Thank you very much. And so let's get back into this. So I'm going to do all three. First off, preseason rankings. Okay, here you go. There's my rankings. Okay, so I have them also chopped up into tiers. We'll start from the bottom on the 20 and work our way up to the top. I have the bottom chunk here. I have London, Paris, Vancouver, and the Valiant. And the way I chunk these up is I think these teams can finish anywhere in this range from 16 to 20 as far as their rankings. We've talked about all the teams. If you haven't checked it out, I have my last 5 videos that are up are all of my feelings on all the teams and where they kind of stand before we go into the season. So real quick, I threw them in an order. It was purposeful. It wasn't just me just chunking a bunch of teams in here. But I have Los Angeles at the bottom. I don't know, and I don't think they're going to be any good. They threw the team together last minute. They don't seem to care right now, in my opinion, as to where they finish. They went over the East, and I think we'll find out more about what's going on with them as the season progresses and all that kind of stuff. Vancouver, in my opinion, they're the least likely to win a bunch of games in the West. They're just not the best team. They're okay. All the other teams upgraded. Paris, I think they're building for the future. I think they'll be okay at times, but I also think at times they're not going to be very good. So same feeling on them as Vancouver. I just don't think they're fantastic. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near in contention or be in tournaments or any of that kind of thing. I think they're just going to be kind of surprising people very rarely. I do think they'll put up fights in games more so than Vancouver or the Valiant will. Next, I have London. I am high on London. I think they're going to be good to start, and I think that once teams get a little bit of stuff swinging, playing live games. It's great to, go say this team is this and this team is that, and they're doing this and they're practicing. But until we get into a live game scenario where all the stuff they've been practicing has to come into play in an actual game, we'll see what happens. I just think they're going to be better to start. And also, just a side note before I keep diving in, without saying this, I am not counting any rumors, scrim bucks, any feelings anybody's had about watching scrims or any of the scrims like the public forum scrims or any of the things that with the show matches or anything like that. None of that is coming into play with my feelings. This is just my straight feelings on before the season starts. I could care less what Dallas does in practice. I'm an NFL fan. I watched continually for years in the 90s. The Buffalo Bills go 0-4 in the preseason and then end up in the Super Bowl for the AFC. So don't tell me that this shit means anything, because it doesn't. It's just practice, insert your Allen Iverson quote, and I'm leaving it at that. There were teams that last year, people got enamored with because of scrimbucks. I'm not doing it. This is my... Okay, rant out of the way. Back to London. Okay, so London. I think they're also like a work in progress like Paris. Early on, I think they're going to be really highly competitive just because other teams don't have their synergy and all that kind of stuff in regular matches, like I said. But I see them in the bottom chunk, too. I just think they're good. They were good in contenders to an extent. I think this is going to be different when they get into the league playing against the best of the best. So that is kind of my bottom chunk. All right, the next chunk of teams. From the bottom up, we're going. I have Boston, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, Toronto, Houston, New York, and Chengdu. This is a big chunk of teams. And it's because it's a jumbled mess. Any of these teams, I think, could be any team from that tier break down, and they can also lose to any team from the London up tier break. So I think this is going to be a lot of cannibalization of their records and playing each other, especially in the East. There's a reason why I have a lot of the teams from the East in this chunk. Because I just feel like it's going to be competitive. There's a lot less teams is really what it breaks down. There aren't as many factors like bottom dwellers, or like if you look at the way I have it set up here, I got London, Paris, and Vancouver as bad teams. The only really bad team I have from the East is the Valiant. A lot of the other teams I think are going to be mediocre or above average, but they're playing each other, and they're just going to continually, with 8 teams, they're going to continually just, beat each other, lose games, win games. I think it's going to be a lot of just back and forth with these teams. I think they're all kind of on the same level to an extent. I do think that some teams can rise up. I do think some teams can drop down. Possibly. So, all right, here we go. From the bottom of the tier, I have Boston up next at 15. I think Boston's going to be a markedly better team than they were last year. They have some players on there I like, but they're also in the West. A lot of teams are better than them, and I just think this is where they're going to end up. They're making strong moves to moving up. Now, Soon did have to get released because of visa issues, and then we're going to talk more about that as this goes on when we get to Philadelphia. We're going to talk more about what's going on with them. So they released Soon. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen Soon. I thought he would have helped his team out a lot. I had them up a little bit higher before that. I know he probably wasn't going to play a lot, but veteran presence, a guy who really knows the game and that kind of thing. You lose that, I think it's a big deal. But yeah, that's my where I have Boston there. Next up, I have Hangzhou. I'm not high on Hangzhou at all this year. A lot of people are talking that, they're going to be better and all that. Until they prove it to me, this is where they're at. I think that the East, like I said, there's a whole bunch of teams that are on the same level. And I think some teams are just better and have made bigger improvements and are looking fresher, hungrier, all that kind of stuff. Now, I have Guangzhou above them. For some reason, I have Guangzhou above them. They're interchangeable. You could just call them like in the same spot. I feel like Guangzhou downgraded in a couple of spots where they really needed to improve, and one spot where they should have tried to keep like Shu in there. I'm a Shu stan. If you would have had Shu in there, I probably could have saw them higher. Maybe not out of this tier, but above 14. Or what do I have? 13. I'm sorry. I'm doing the math wrong. Okay, so I had Boston at 16, Hangzhou at 15, Guangzhou at 14. And then next up, I have Toronto. I have Toronto at 13. I like the direction they're going in. I just think there's some unproven guys on here. They could go up, they could go down. Like I've said a million times with these teams, they're all kind of on the same level, in my opinion. And it's going to be fantastic to watch. I want to see this stuff shake itself down, shake itself out. I think Toronto is moving in a good direction here. I think some of the guys they got on the team are going to be really good. And they have really good coaching now. I just am worried about the rookie support line. I know they're hype, and I hear that they're playing really, they're going to be good together on this team. I don't know, like I said, I don't care about scrims and all that stuff, but, and I worry about Sato not having Alarm and Funny Astro to back him up so he can play that play style that he likes to play, which is, a little aggressive and all that kind of stuff. but he does have his coach, and they could work, be working through things and all that kind of stuff because he's used to how Sato plays. So I have them a little bit higher. Okay, this is something that people are going to be weird about. I know right now. I have Houston high because I have hopes for Houston this year. I think they made some good improvements. Okay, I think their tank line's better. I think, and I also think, conversely, I think that they kind of replace guys with guys that, like some of the other people that they got rid of, with just maybe a slightly better or on the same level kind of guy. They had Linkser, he left. They got a slightly better guy in Happy. Do you see where I'm going? They brought Jake back. That's more for moral support. You have Hydration back on the DPS role. I don't know too much about Juby as a support, but I hear he's good. And I just have a feeling that Houston, and they have Junkbuck there now, along with Harsha, and I think they have this broken down into certain parts where they can just manage this team. And I think they're going to surprise some people this year. I think they're going to be a little bit higher than, people think. Now, next, above them, I have New York. New York, I think they made the right moves. Now, last year we talked about, and, on the team preview, we talked about them getting rid of that old New York mentality, that old New York notion. It's not your dad's mayhem. Well, it's not your dad's mayhem, but it's not your dad's Excelsior either. But what I think New York with Flower or not, whatever plant-based DPS hero or DPS guy they have this year, Flora, and I guess they need Fauna now to go alongside of him. But anyway, I think they made some good moves. I like this team. I like Ivy on this team a lot. I think Ivy is a suitable replacement for Libero. I think that he did wonders with Philadelphia last year, and I liked him way back. They were doing the scouting reports or signing reports and all that and saying stuff, and I was looking at players. I like the way he plays, and I think he's going to be an integral part to this team. I mean, there are questions. Yakpung, is he going to be good? He looked good in contenders. There's a lot of things to think about here. But I do think that they're going to be one of the teams that surprises a lot of people because the three teams that are below them in my rankings for the East in general are worse than they are to start with. Now, next up, we have at the 11th spot, I have Chengdu. I'm looking for some good things out of Chengdu. I've heard a lot of great stuff about the guys they picked up. And I looked at, tried to find videos and tried to find watching these guys, like some of these guys play. But I know Gaga is the key because they had a lot of trouble with the main tank thing. I know Ameng, Yoda Chad, Ballmaster got better, but this dude's a legit main tank. And that's huge. I think they made a couple of other moves that could help them out. I think their DPS is great, and I think there's some other things on this team that once we see them play, we're going to see that they are way better than they've been, and they play more of a conventional style of Overwatch that is necessary right now, because with hero pools and all the other things, yeah, it was fun, and it still is fun to watch, even go back and watch some of the stuff they do with the ball comps against the teams playing goats and bamboozling them and screwing them up. And even last year, some of the stuff they did. But there were certain times last year you knew they weren't going to win because they didn't have a valid main tank, all around valid main tank. And that was huge. And some of the other guys that got rid of were okay. And I think this is going to be fantastic. This roster is going to be great. I think they're at 11. And overall, I think is fantastic. Above them, we're moving up into the top 10. We're moving into the teams that I think are going to be vying for playoffs and championships and on all that stuff. The next chunk of teams. Now, these are teams that also, same applies for these teams. They could be in any kind of jumbled order in here. I think they're all on this. These are, all on the same level. They're above average teams. They're going to be in contention for tournaments and playoff spots and all of that kind of stuff. They are teams that are not necessarily the elite teams in the league, but they're like a tick below the elite teams. Now, starting off at 10, I have Seoul. I like Seoul. I loved him last year. I'm a Prophet freak. He's my dude. There are questions I do have on this team. And a couple of them, the tank situation is always interesting with this team. It's a little weird. You can even dive into some of the other. They brought in Sabiobi, and they brought in Animo, who I think is going to be okay at main support. There are certain spots on this team that have flaws. And so they have guys that can pull them through this. And they're one of those teams we saw last year. They go through mental lulls and all that kind of craziness. They have weeks where they lose to Chengdu 3-0, and then they're just up and down, and it hasn't changed that much roster-wise. And I just think it's going to be more of the same. That's why I have them at 10. They're better than some of the teams that are below them. I think that they could drop down into that next tier, and some of a couple of those teams in the East could go above them. It's a possibility. But next, start molding. Go ahead. Let me have it. I have Washington. I have Washington at 9. Don't have them at 3. I don't have them at 2. I don't have them in the top 8. Sorry. Support line is mediocre. You see where I'm going here. Washington is going to have a fantastic tank line. We don't know how they're going to play, though, together. Their DPS line has decay. There we go. I like where this team is going. I think they have a possibility to win tournaments, especially if you get the right meta. They are meta dependent like no other. I just think that they have the potential to do some really big things. I just don't have them in the top 5. Everyone has them. A lot of people have them way high. I have to wait and see with Washington because there are too many questions for me. And most of them revolve around the support line. I know everybody harps on it, but I also think that the DPS line is a lot of hype with a lot less substance outside of decay. It's great. Those guys are great. Your Jerrys and Tubas and these guys, they're fantastic. And assuming, I do think Assassin's going to be decent, but I'm not impressed with the Jerry and Tuba thing also. I don't know if they're going to be necessary or what, but I like Decay on this team. I think Decay is going to bring a lot, and I think their tank line should be phenomenal. I think it's going to be some of these metas and hero pool things. They're going to allow them to work through with that tank line, with getting synergy, and they might even be able to gain some traction with the mediocrity of their support line. There's something about it that I need to see. Speaking of need to see, this whole chunk of teams. I need to see them play. That's why I can't wait for this weekend. I want to see these teams go out there. Now, the next two teams, we have Atlanta and Florida. I consider them in the same spot. I consider them like 6 and 6A, or flip-flopped around. They're two teams that I feel the same about. They're both really good teams. They have a lot of potential to move up in the standings and give these other teams some serious trouble. I mean, you can even throw Washington and Seoul into that equation too. But Atlanta, I think their DPS line is obviously what they focused on, because they have Pelican and you have Edison, and I just think it's going to be great. Pelican and potentially Mag are two of my Rookie of the Year guys. Right now I'm leaning towards Pelican because DPS are going to matter a lot right now, I think. Main tanks always matter, but they don't get the recognition sometimes. But I think Pelican could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, and I just think that is going to propel them forward. I think Gator and Hawk are good. I don't think they're the best. We've talked about, what I think about Atlanta and, maybe some of the situations they have going on with coaching and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think they're going to be decent. I really do. This could be a year where they actually exceed expectations of a lot of people who have them down low. We're going to also find out week 1, they play Florida. So Florida, my team, my favorite team in the league. That mock me all you want. I have them here. Suck it. That's all I got to say. I think they're going to be good. I think I'm banking on Oj being better than he was the last 2 seasons. And mostly last season because GOATs. The season before that, I'm not talking about my feelings on the GOAT season and how I don't either give people a pass or not give them, my feelings on their play during the GOATS era, it was a totally different animal, is my thing. Some people played below expectations. Some people played above expectations. And I don't count that season, but I think they're going to be really good. I do worry about some things. I worry about the DPS. I worry about Checkmate, bringing him in. What's he going to do? How's he going to be? That kind of vibe. I worry about, like I said, Oj. Their support line's fantastic. I think Slime and Gangnam Jin are going to be great. And obviously BQB, Gargoyle, and Yaki are all fine. They're all really top-notch, great players in this league. And I think they're gonna show it. And they're going to be outside of that. They aren't quite there yet. I want to see. You call it see. I want to see a chunk of teams. I think they're going to have to work on a few things as the season goes on and figuring things out. But I have high expectations for them. I think it's going to be a fun, fantastic year. Thank God for 2 years, potentially in a row, as a Mayhem fan and watching the first 2 seasons of absolute garbage. They're doing a fantastic job. I think Kookie's a great coach. And I think they're going to be in contention. And any of these teams, too, in this chunk, before we move up to the next one, I think they can win a tournament. If you get them the right meta, the right situation, upsets, all that kind of things in a tournament, I think they could win a tournament. Now, let's move up to the next chunk. Now, you're going to wonder, a lot of people have dropped Philadelphia down. Now, I waited to see, what was going to play out with their situation with the visas. Now, they signed Hotba and they signed Toby to come fill in for FD God and Poco. They are going to be serviceable to the point where I think it's going to be fine. I think Hotba has played on this team before. He knows the situation. He's also a really good player. Is he as good as Poco? I don't think so, but I think he's good enough. I think Hotba has showed that he's an Overwatch League level player. He had a rough year with the Excelsior just because they were doing the Excelsior thing. And don't forget, he also played with Mono, which could be good or bad, depending on how you look at it. I look at it as a good thing. They already know how each other plays on the tank line, so that's going to help out a lot. Then you throw Toby in there, the Boop God. Remember, he's a power absorber. He will absorb the power of FD God and be just fine along with Alarm. And the rest of this team is just too stacked to even worry about. I think they will overcome this, and until news on Poco and FD God being able to come in, then, we don't have to, we won't have anything to worry about, I don't think. I'm sorry, I keep saying FD God, I mean Funny Astro. when Funny Astro and Poco come back, I think it'll be great. Plus, they'll have these other 2 guys on the bench. So, I mean, how can you go wrong with that? Having Toby and Hotbutt, and who knows, they could work themselves into primetime players for this team. They might work better with these guys. I think it's a fantastic move for them. I think they're going to be right here. They're going to be right up in the things in the East continually. I don't think you're going to have to worry about them falling. They might have a rough initial start, first couple games, getting games under their belt, because they literally haven't played that much with these guys. So, I mean, well, as far as we know. But I think that they're going to be fine. I think they're a title in title contention. I think all of these teams from here on up have a shot at winning the title. Next up, Dallas. This roster, talked about it. They should be here or higher, in my estimation. I have them here because I do have some questions and some things that right now I think need to play out. They don't have the best Tracer player. There are some questions about the, synergies and all that kind of stuff. I think they'll be fine. I think this team is too high on talent to let anything slip through. Plus, these guys are winners. They know how to win. They know how to play, and at a high level. I'm looking for a lot of things out of them. Tournament wins, constantly in the tournaments, beating teams like the Shock and the Gladiators, and taking care of business this year. I think this is a different Dallas team. I know a lot of people have the stigma of Dallas attached to them, and I could be one of them. Year one, me and when I had my partner Kel, we both picked Dallas to win. We picked Dallas and Seoul to be in the final. Yeah, that got shot down. but you see where I'm going? It's a thing with Dallas. I mean, it's It's kind of how, like, with Houston and Hangzhou. Houston, I turned the page on, and Chengdu, actually. But Hangzhou is a team that's burned me, and low expectations. I have high expectations for Dallas because I'm putting that other team aside because none of those guys are there. The guys that were playing Valorant last year are playing Valorant at a mediocre level. So, or if at all, it seems like. But, and I'm not knocking the game because it's a good game and do what you want to do. But the guys that were sucking roster spots up off this team last year and causing problems and whatever else was going on, stuff behind the scenes that we didn't see. That is in the past, guys. Past. Dallas is going to be good. I have them at 4. I think it's a solid 4 pick. Are these my teams for the final? Not necessarily. Right now, if you were to look at it, you took my top 4, I would have San Francisco, Shanghai, LA, and Philly from the start of the season. Probably, maybe, I could go San Francisco all day long. Shanghai all day long in the East. The remaining spots in the West, it's up in the air, and it's going to be fantastic to watch. But I'm expecting a lot from Dallas. I'm expecting more out of the next team, the Gladiators. They have a team this year, and God damn it, Gladiators, it's time to do something. I have you at 3, 2 in the West, it would be. With this team, if you can't finish above everybody but the Shock, or potentially, I'm not saying that they are going to, potentially finishing ahead of the Shock in the regular season in the final standings, you got a serious problem with your org. Because this team is ready to win right now. You have Bird Rain coming back. You have Mirror. You have Moth and Shu. You have Space, and you have Muse playing main tank. And then you have Skewed as well. So this team needs to do something this year, I think. And I think they can. I think that I can't wait. My God, I can't even speak. I can't wait to see them play because I love Shu, and I think Shu and Moth are going to be great. And I worry about Space and with the level of the other guys, but I just have a feeling they're going to be better than people think. Now, the next 2 teams, to me, they're the top, bar none. You're talking out your ass if you think they're not. You're just making shit up. And that's San Francisco and Shanghai. We talked a lot about them. I have Shanghai just below San Francisco. I almost had them on the same level. Look, Fate's going to do a lot for Shanghai. I'm really high on them. I think they're going to win the East. And I'm not going to say that they're going to win the championship, but I think they're and I'm not talking about having the best record, the best team overall of the whole year, but winning that one tournament, I think Shanghai can do it. And I probably am picking them right now as the champion. But San Francisco, same thing. They're so good. And with the new additions and all the stuff that they got going on, you cannot say that San Francisco is going to be any worse than they were the last 2 years. Yeah, they've switched out some components and some pieces in leadership, but they brought in guys that are mechanically skilled as well. You have Glister and you have Nero in there. You don't have Rascal and Ons. Ons was a bigger departure than I think Rascal was. Not that Rascal wasn't that good, but damn, Ons ended fights so soon that he was just amazing. And yeah, they're going to be fantastic. I expect to see these 2 teams at the end of the year. You're sure there could be a surprise, and I hope so. But at Shanghai, I'm looking for a lot of things from Shanghai. I'm expecting San Francisco to do San Francisco things, which is also amazing to watch. But Shanghai is, I'm not on the Shanghai, I wouldn't call it a Shanghai bandwagon. I'm calling it the upgrades that they've made have put them at a level where I think they could win and beat the Shock and knock them off their throne. I think the East is an easy win, or is an easy win for them. I think they're miles better than Philly, Seoul, Chengdu, and the rest. I just think they're that far above. They are elite. They have the reigning MVP. They have the potential guy that could have been the Rookie of the Year in Lip. You have Erster now, and then you have another MVP candidate in Void. You have your support line. You have Izzyaki, who's not talked about enough. You have Lee Jae-gong on main support, one of the top support lines in the league. You have Molly to back him up. You have DM to play long-range hit scan. You have Fate, who is one of the best leaders and is criminally underrated as a tank, in my opinion. People just discard him as he was bad in GOAT, so he's bad. No, Fate's good. I'm a Mayhem fan, and he helped turn that team around. And he's going to take this team to the next level. I am so looking forward to seeing this team play. It's going to be amazing. But that's my ranking. And I do have San Francisco ahead of them. I think, barring any weirdness, which I don't think is going to happen, San Francisco is the best team in the league. To quote Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So until Shanghai beats the man, I have them in second. But here really quick, here are my standings for my preseason rankings for the divisions. You can kind of figure them out if you know where you're going, if you're looking at things. West, I got San Francisco, Gladiators, Fuel, followed by Mayhem, Reign, Justice, take your pick. Then Defiant, Outlaw, Uprising, take your pick in the order you want that in. And then the bottom, Vancouver and Paris. And I have London there. I'm more confident about London at 18. I would be about Paris being at 18. So, or not 18. In NA, it would be 10. So that's the West. And then the East, no surprises. I have Shanghai, Philly, Seoul, Chengdu, NYXL, Charge, Spark, take your pick in the order. And then 3 tiers down, I have the Valiant. Yes, 3 tiers. I just, whatever with that team. I'm not even counting them in the discussion. Unless they all of a sudden do something to put themselves into the discussion, they're out of it. So that's why I have them 2 tiers down. I think it's a 7-team division again, and they don't count. We already discussed my thoughts on that. Who knows? It could surprise me. LOL. And, who knows? If they do, I'll buy a Valiant jersey. And don't clip that because I'm not buying a Valiant jersey. So I don't even know why I said that. Anyway, those are my power rankings, guys. I'm super hyped. Obviously, you can tell I am just like, I'm chomping at the bit for the season to start. That's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys like what you saw and, listen to here. Please comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me you think I'm a moron for having a team in a certain spot or I have a team too low or a team too high or let's talk about this. I want to get this discussion rolling and just start going with the season. And it's been way too long of a wait. I'm ready to go. That's my power rankings. We're going to have the week 1 previews coming up at the, towards the end of the week. Look for it. It's going to be awesome. And then we'll have, we'll get back into the swing of the regular season. And it's going to be awesome. I might start reviving some of the things like picks and predictions and all that kind of stuff where we are going against odds and all that. Maybe we'll do a little Melee odds tournament thing. I don't know. I'm going to look into it and see how I feel about it, see what you guys feel about it, and we'll start rolling with it. But that's going to do it, guys. Thank you very much for all your support. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys some more as the season goes on. And especially some of you new guys. Thanks a lot for dropping by. Don't forget, guys, hit the like button, hit the alert bell. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody have a good rest of your day. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you on the next one.